Hello, and welcome to the Soul Shaking Love podcast. This podcast is dedicated to bringing you the world's best expert teachers to help you to feel that mind, body, and spirit connection with yourself and with your true love. And so today, I'm really excited to be interviewing internationally recognized author and transformational coach, Cynthia James. And we're going to talk about how to stand in your power and own your voice. So Cynthia, hello, warm welcome.
Oh, Valerie, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Likewise. And it's just, this topic is near and dear to my heart because I know that a lot of my audience is, they already know that we're supposed to be true to ourselves, not, compromise for a romantic partner. But it's so hard to actually, when we're scared or when we're triggered, to be able to actually stand in our power, rather than make other people wrong. And right. And so that's what I'm excited to talk to you about. So first, I'll just tell everyone a little bit about Cynthia. She is a transformational and emotional integration coach. And that means that she guides people to make really deep changes in terms of who we see ourselves to be and then what we're capable of creating in the world. And she's an acclaimed speaker, coach, singer, composer, and multiple award-winning author of several books, including her newest book, which I'll ask her about in a few minutes, Does My Voice Matter? Which is so important because if we believe our voice matters, then we can speak up and create what we want in the world. So, hello, Cynthia.
Hi.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. Go on.
No, I love this topic, and I think it's especially important for women. You know, um, when I was doing research for one of my other books, I was really interested in why it was so difficult for women to choose themselves. And
Mm,
in the research, it was like we were property until the early 1900s, and our job was to procreate, take care of the house, and take care of everyone else. And so as things started to change, with women's suffrage and different things, we started to go, well, maybe there's more for me. But the messaging is still prevalent that if you don't take care of others first, you're selfish. And
mm.
guilt comes into play. And so I think that women are still trying to find their way out of that box, that old box that says you have to make everyone happy.
Exactly. I'm so glad that you named that because I think that that is still the unconscious programming that all of us are walking around with. Even if we were raised in families like I grew up in I was born in 1978. So my parents consciously raised me like, oh, boys and girls are equal and you should have the same opportunities. But unconsciously, I still bumped up against the old programming of, well, you have to give to others first.
Right.
You're being selfish if you stop and pay attention to your own feelings and what you need first, right? And so I'm so glad that you're naming that because that's, I think, under the surface and running us if we don't notice it.
Well, yes, and you got a whole culture that's kind of bought into that whole premise. I mean, what we're watching in this country and around the world in terms of treatments of women and stuff, there's still that messaging that you don't have power, that you don't
Yep.
have a voice, that you can't choose.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, of course, the message is there for both men and women,
Mm.
but women especially because of, I mean, I think that it's most of us, of course, we know that women suffered, we got the right to vote in 1913, right? Like we know that. But how often do we stop to think that was only a little bit more than 100 years ago?
Right.
That's not that long ago for society to have changed. So therefore, it's up to each one of us to evolve society by standing up for our own authenticity.
Yeah. And that's the good news and the interesting news because it's like yes, it is, but not everybody's going to go, "Oh, hooray, she's bringing her voice to the plate."
Of course. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, and that's yeah. So which of course, I mean, I want to take a step back and ask about your journey because I know that it's very interesting. But I do want to put a bookmark there, because I think the meat of the interview is going to be how do we do this? How do we when we're scared or when we feel like we don't deserve it? How do we work through that? You know. So, but of course, I want to know first and foremost, why did you choose to write the book? Does my voice matter? Because I know that you have a powerful story behind that.
Well, I decided to write it because I have a lot of clients that were coming to me really talking about in one form or another why they felt like their voices didn't matter, why they felt
Mm.
powerless in certain situations. And so I've been on this planet for over 7 decades. And in each decade, I started thinking about all the the changes that I was going through, what culture was doing. And so I decided to start documenting it because what most of us don't know is that whatever's going on in the culture is impacting us, whether it's music or art or politics or whatever it is, it's impacting us and the ways in which we're operating. And so in each one of these decades, I learned, some pretty intense lessons and growth opportunities. And so I
Yes.
wanted to be able to share with people my journey and the lessons that I've learned in hopes that maybe some of those lessons would support them.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I think that it's incredibly generous of you to um, use your own learning lessons, challenges, growth opportunities so that you can document them and then shorten the learning curve for other people.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like one of the reasons we're on the planet is to help each other. And I know that there's this whole paradigm of competition and all this other stuff, but I really think that the more loving and giving we can be with each other, the more the whole entire planet expands.
Yes, I love that. And I actually think that what you're talking about is the feminine paradigm
Yeah.
rather than the masculine paradigm of, because the masculine paradigm, which neither one, in my opinion, is wrong. I don't think competition is wrong. We wouldn't have fun when we're playing sports if we didn't accept competition, right? But at the same time, it's just only one way. And what you're talking about is, in my opinion, the feminine paradigm of collaboration, of lifting each other up,
Yeah.
of we're stronger together
Yeah.
than anyone could be on our own.
Yeah, because I think that it brings innovation
Mhm.
and it and that whole thing of collaboration. I do a lot of work with teams and it's like, what if everybody brings their A game?
Yes,
And then we all get to support each other and we all get to lift each other and we all get to shine because then that's just going to lift the frequency of the organization and the collective.
exactly, exactly. And I think what you're saying right now speaks really well of the distinction of what does it mean to have power to create what it is that you want in the world, rather than thinking that we have to have power over others, and
Yeah.
compete and win against them and win lose. Yeah, so I'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, well, power too means that you are tapping into your inner resources and being the best that you can be. Power over is really about pushing someone else down so that you can rise. And
Yeah,
I just don't think that that supports anything because it creates a chasm and then you have to keep doing that thing and keep pushing people down in order to keep that confidence or whatever it is that you're trying to seek. And like, but the thing is like if we're all unique if we're all amazing, unique impressions on this planet, then we all come with gifts that nobody else can deliver. So then if we
Mm.
all work together, oh my gosh, what do we create? We create something fantastic.
Yes, that's so true. And I think that I love what you just said, that everybody else in the room has a gift too. So we can take this to a concrete example. Let's say you're going to show up at a board meeting and maybe you're the only woman. We can make that the
Mhm.
example, because it is about women speaking up for themselves and finding their voice. Although obviously the same principles apply to men too. But the challenges that we're talking about are unique to women. And so if I believe that I'm not that worthy, then
Right,
I'm going to try to have power over, because I need to prove myself.
right.
I need to be the best.
Yeah, but the thing about that is like, then you are constantly, you know, perusing who you are, what you're thinking, how you're going to speak. So you're not really present.
Yep.
And so the thing is like what I've seen is women go to that into the spectrum you're talking about, where they're trying to prove themselves, and and then people think they're over the top or too intense, or they go to the other way where they're just withholding their energy and they're not speaking. But the thing is, I was in a situation in a board, and the board, there were certain values in the company, and the board was making this this decision that was against our values. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of I was like appalled, right? And I spoke up, and it was intense, right?
Yeah.
And the CEO kind of looked at me and got, really quiet. The room got really quiet. And then I thought, I wonder if the women here speak up, right? So after this whole meeting, I went to the CEO and I said, okay, can we talk about what just happened in the room? Are we okay? He said, I can always trust that you're going to go to be in alignment with our mission and our values. But what I'd like to invite you to do is learn to speak with a velvet hammer, so that you
Mm.
speak your truth without making everybody else wrong.
Right. Which I think comes from the belief that everybody else has a gift too.
Right.
Because if you believe that, right, then you're going to say, this is what I value and this is what we value,
Right.
and what do you all think? Which it sounds like, um, well, I want to hear from you. How would you define that velvet hammer?
Curiosity,
Yes.
to really invite people by asking questions about how can we stand in alignment, how can we make a difference here, how can we create something where people win.
Oh, right. That is such a brilliant distinction, that if you believe that everybody there has their own gifts, then you're not going to make them wrong for their ideas. You're going to instead say, wait a minute, this is the company values.
Right.
What do you think? How do you want to uphold the values? What is the best way for us to get what it is that we want to get through this new proposal in accordance to our values? Let's hear from everybody, right? And then you're not doing all the work.
That's exactly right. And you're inviting people to open their consciousness and their perception. And so people can start, aligning and collaborating on, oh, maybe we can go down this path.
Yes, yes. Because people aren't, I love what you're saying, because if you don't make people wrong, but you speak to, here's what I value,
Right.
and I want to know what you value,
Yes. Right.
then it gets past other people's defenses too.
Well, yeah, and it says, how do we, that book Good to Great? It talks about the companies that say, what are we the best at, right? And then how does everything in the company go towards that marker? And I think
Right.
that's what happens when you invite people into that kind of conversation, that kind of dialogue. It's like, oh, well, how can we be the best at this? How can we really bring into the world or into this project or whatever, how can we bring into it who we say we are so people can experience it?
Yes. Oh, I love that. And I know that um who we say we are is infinitely deep if we're really in touch with our dreams.
Yes. Yeah. And our passion.
Exactly. And so I want to hear more about that because I think there's a way that we can tell other people what we want on a superficial level. And that there's nothing wrong with that. It's just if we're able to really speak up for our deepest dreams, that's when we'll attract others who share them. So I know that you have a
Mm.
lot to say about that.
I think dreams is the universe's way of showing us the possibility of life.
Mm.
And so when you tap into those dreams, then you tap into your passion points. And the thing about it is, it's like it won't be the same throughout your entire life. You know, the dream that you had, maybe 25 years ago looks like one thing, but as you grow, as you learn, as you expand, as you create, it starts to morph and evolve. And so I think, when I was a kid, I talked all the time. It was like shedding me up, and I always saw myself traveling and I always saw myself, on stages and singing and doing all this, which made no sense. We were on welfare, there was a lot of violence and craziness and abuse in my life. But there was that part of me that that what people called fantasy was
Mm.
actually the dream that wanted to be fulfilled as my life.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that, because I think a lot of people would be inspired hearing the story, whatever you want to share about your
Mm.
own childhood and how you were able to own your power, even though nobody around you was modeling that.
Right.
And what it meant for you to not give up on your own dreams. And,
Yeah.
I'm sure that that'll inspire a lot of other women.
Well, so I come from 5 generations of women who've been abused and traumatized.
Wow.
My biological father was an alcoholic and, floated in and out, but left my mother when I was very young. And my stepfather was a wife beater and a pedophile. And so there was a lot of violence and craziness. And I was trying to figure out who I was because there was this part of me that was like terrified and trying to keep your head under the radar. But then there was this other part that was like, that pizzazz,
Right.
would
Which,
create songs. Yeah, yeah. And so in the book, I reference it as, the one who withdrew and was scared was Cindy, and the one who was pizzazz was Cynthia. And
wow.
and I was evolving into Cynthia. And the thing is like I would tell my family my dreams. I'm going to travel and I'm going to record and they would like, are you crazy? You're standing in food lines. Get out of here. But what I realized today is speaking my word and bringing my dreams out into form, so to
Mm.
speak, was me telling the universe I'm ready to align with my destiny.
Wow. That's so powerful. And thank you for sharing that, by the way. I mean, I, have so much compassion for your history, which we've only heard just a tiny amount of. And what I hear you saying, which is so important, because a lot of people think if the people around me don't want to hear what I have to say, then there's no point in sharing it.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
but you know what? It's like if you flip the coin, then it's like maybe you are speaking into the space possibilities and inviting other people to do the same.
right. It's kind of like that Marianne Williamson quote, we don't speak up because we're like, who am I?
Mhm. Right.
but the truth is, who are you? And I guide people to say, who is the first person who ever asked, who do you think you are? Right.
Right.
Because obviously that's when we create a limiting belief about ourselves that we're worthless.
Right.
Because unfortunately, all human beings have a limiting belief. I'm not good enough in some way. But the truth is that when we have the courage to speak up, even if the people around us, quote unquote, don't want to hear it, although I would argue that a part of them does, and we're planting a seed, right?
Right.
um, that it actually does give people permission to then be themselves.
It
But
does.
maybe 5 years down the line, right? We don't get to see it in the moment. In the moment, they might be like, you're stupid, or, that'll never happen for you, or whatever they would say.
Right. But
But 5 years down the line, maybe that seed sprouts in them, and you're not doing it for them. But the point is, there's no reason not to say it just because they don't currently agree with you.
well, yeah, and you get to see who is in alignment with you and who is not.
Right.
Because if somebody is a naysayer to your dreams and your goals and your gifts, then they weigh down the energy. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, it's like I want people in my life who see me. I want people in my life who are dreamers too. I want people in my life who want to help me fulfill my dreams and I help them fulfill their dreams. Because you're right, I could say something to someone and 5 years down the line, they'll get it. But I don't want anybody in my life telling me that I'm not enough, that my dreams don't matter, and that I can't fulfill my destiny.
Exactly. And I love um the confidence and the courage that you're embodying when you say that, because I think the reason why a lot of people don't speak up is because they're scared that, oh my gosh, if this person doesn't agree with me, and then I have to not be as close to them anymore because we don't share the same values, I'll never meet anybody who does. Like, we're in a scarcity mindset
Mhm.
around meeting people that do share our values. And it takes courage to trust that if this person doesn't support my dreams, if I don't speak up, I'll never know that. And we'll have this sort of superficial connection. If I do speak up and worst case scenario, they don't like me anymore, well, then I should know that, because I only want people in my life that support my dreams and believe in me.
Yeah. You know, it's very interesting that we get so afraid to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is, first of all, why would the universe put you here and there's only one person that can fit your life? I mean, that makes no sense to me. But the other part is that if you do not show the people who you are, if you
Mm,
do not bring your voice and be courageous enough to share who you are, then you are always playing a part. I
right.
told people that I used to be one of the world's greatest chameleons. If you lined up the men I dated, they'd all tell you they dated somebody different because I would be what they needed me to be.
Right.
And when I got to the point, but the problem, yeah, I would, the real me would emerge and then it would like blow things up.
Right,
So,
right.
so
Because you
I
can
was
only play for so
so
long.
long, exactly. So I was like, how about I stop doing that and just be me and then see what happens and who comes in and how we play together.
Yes, I know. I mean, I think that that is the secret to finding the compatible life partner where you have soul shaking love, which is what I teach about, is that, we have to not be acting as a persona. We
That's
have
right.
to be authentic, because sooner or later they're going to find out who we really are.
Exactly. And if you're your true self, then you bring out that in the other person.
Yes, exactly. And so I do want to use an example of a romantic relationship because I think that um, these are amazing concepts. And let's use a very typical example. Like, let's say a woman is in a romantic relationship with a guy who's a pretty good guy. He wants to do things for her, but let's say he's just not doing the things he used to do. He's not taking her out. He's assuming that their dates are going to be Friday night watching TV together. He's not really, making her feel swept like he was in the beginning. And, maybe he calls her last minute for booty call, etc. So there's multiple ways of standing up for yourself, right? There's making him wrong, which is what most of us are used to. But what is the work instead that we need to do to actually speak up for ourselves, which includes, the power to rather than the power over means that we're in touch with our values, our vision, right? Like that's the deeper truth that's going to inspire someone instead of making them wrong. So I know that you have a process that you teach for women to really get in touch with the depth of who they are. So let's hear more about that.
Well, first of all, I think that what you're speaking about is a call for vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about what is important to me in relationship. What what do I value? What makes me feel seen, heard, understood? And and what are my non-negotiables? What are
Mm-hmm.
the things that I cannot tolerate and stay in a relationship? When you get clear about those things, then it's very easy to say to the partner, okay, I'm a little concerned here because it seems like we've lost some of this fire and passion, the thing that brought us together in the first place. So the first thing I want to know is if you lost interest, because if you have, that won't feel great. But I'd rather know that than to keep trying to find a way to fix things when you're not in the game the same way I am. And if you are, then what do you need to feel inspired and more passion filled that I can deliver to you? Because here are the things I need. And you just really talk about the things that are important to you and what's going to make lovemaking stronger, what's going to make communication deeper, but that really means being seen, and the person may or may not give you what you need.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. And I love what you're saying because you're coming to the interaction with curiosity, which is, the same example as with the boardroom. It's assuming that the other person has needs and dreams too.
Yeah,
Here's what I'm dreaming of. Is that what you're also dreaming of? Let's see how we can co-create it, or if not, do we want different things? I'm just being curious, right?
right.
And of course, as I teach, there's different nuance. Like, you wouldn't ask someone if they've lost interest if you first start dating, because you're
Right.
in a relationship. I coach a lot of women with anxious attachment, and then it's about discovering the stage of the relationship that you're in terms of what to say. But what you're saying, which I love, is it's always a good thing, no matter what, when we're not feeling good, to say, hold on, what do I most deeply value in life, in this relationship? What is it that I'm wanting to experience? And why is that important to me? And I'm inspired by my own dream of what I want so much that I want to communicate it and find out what this other person wants, because I can't keep it inside. But I'm not
Right.
going to make him wrong in the process. I'm going to be curious about, here's what I want. What do you want? Let's find out what's our truth together, is kind of the
Yeah,
essence of what you're saying.
absolutely. I've been with my husband for 29 years, and um, in August we'll be married for 24. But this is one of the things I had been through a terrible divorce when I met him, and I had children, and I was not interested in mm, bed hopping and casual dating.
Right.
And so when we first started going out, I asked him, tell me what you're looking for,
Hmm.
and I'll tell you what I'm looking for. And and I said, I'm not interested necessarily in getting married again, but I am interested in deep and powerful friendship and having open, honest, clear communication. And he said at the time no one had ever spoken to him like that so clearly, but it opened a way for us to, even when we hit walls, to say, okay, can we go back to the intention that we set at the beginning?
Exactly, which is so important. And that's why when I work with couples, I always have them create values and shared values and what is the culture that we want to create together.
Right,
Because then when you argue, you go back. What are our values and what are we on the same page about? And how would we choose to honor our values in this decision? And then obviously you're on the same team again. So I think that what you're saying is so important, that if you have the courage to identify what's most deeply important to you, your values and your dreams and what makes you tick and what you long for, then you have the energy to be curious about what others want.
yeah,
I think that most of us just default. I know myself, I'll call myself out. Like if I'm arguing with my husband and making him wrong, it's because I haven't taken the time to really identify what is it that I want? Why is that important to me? How do I want to feel? What does that look like and feel like when I have it? Like, how beautiful will that be? Am I going to be able to share that with him as a dream? Or am I just going to make him wrong for not doing it?
right.
Because the first way we'll have a wonderful collaborative conversation, and and have great sex. That was a Freudian slip. The second way, we'll be arguing, and then he'll feel mad at me, and then we won't have intimacy later. So
Right. I
it's
think also looking for gratitude. Um,
mm,
my husband and I have this ritual that started just before we got married. Before we go to bed at night, we talk about what we're grateful for in the day, but we also acknowledge the other person for the gifts that they brought us that day, or the things
oh,
that we've seen. So even if we're mad at each other, we will do that process.
it's so
And
brilliant. Hmm.
it's really good, because when you're in that place that you were talking about, when you're making the other person wrong and you're fighting, you forget to be grateful. You
Yep.
forget the good things that they've done, because you're just going to win.
Oh yeah, it's tunnel vision. It's
That's
like
right.
I mean, for me, it's like I need to fight for my survival is when it feels like, when I'm not
Yes,
triggered. Obviously, I know how to self-soothe and then get out of it and repair it, all of that, because that's what I teach. But I think that it's important to recognize that, this isn't easy. It takes
right.
courage, but is worth it.
Absolutely. And it's worth it for the relationship, but it's also worth it for you, because
Mhm.
you really get to look at, am I really being the person I say that I am? Am I really showing up the
Yes.
way I want to show up in this world?
Oh, I love that, because in my opinion, it is our relationships, not just romantic, but our relationships with other people. We can walk around on our own and think that we're enlightened and everything's great and I'm happy, right? But then we get with another person, and that's when we're tempted to not live true to ourselves, right?
That's
It's
right.
like, because I think that he doesn't care or etc. Right. And so that is why it's so important to use relationships for growth. That if I'm upset, then it's an opportunity to connect more deeply with my values and with my dreams.
Yeah.
But obviously that it's easier said than done. So I know that you have specific what you call challenge portals along the process of transformation. So maybe that would help, because it is easier said than done. So tell us a little bit about what those portals are for you, and maybe that'll illuminate the process a little more.
Yeah, I think, and I really believe that challenges are portals of transformation. But I think that self-love can be a challenge, because if you're not loving yourself, it's hard for you to really love anybody else. I think self-care can be a challenge portal, because if you don't know how to
Mm.
take care of you and honor you and know what you need, it can be a problem. I also think that making yourself a priority in life can be a challenge, because we want to take care of
Mhm.
other people. And I also think that um, connecting to your inner life, your spiritual life,
Mm.
really finding out what feeds your soul, if that's not happening, it can be a challenge, and you can be kind of batted around depending on what's happening in your field.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, because I agree. If we look at all of this as, oh, I want to speak up for my truth and my dreams from a masculine paradigm where I have to make other people hear me,
Right.
then that's a lot of work versus just connecting, as I'm hearing, to, oh, I need to make the time to meditate and hear what my inner voice is saying.
Yes, absolutely.
That
Absolutely.
that occurs as work, but it's actually easier because then we don't have to do all that work of convincing others, right? It's just we're uncovering our own truth, and that gives us energy, right? So I'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, the thing is that what gives you energy is what lights you up. And what lights you up has to do with your passion points, has to do with your dreams and your desires. And I don't know about any of the people listening, but when I was growing up, it was like security, security, security. Get a
Mhm.
job that's going to be secure. Get a relationship that's going to be secure.
Oh yeah, me too.
Right? Yeah. But the thing is like, I mean, that's not what's going to fill you up.
Totally.
And so, I think it was Joseph Campbell who said, when you're not connected to your passion, you're up a ladder and you find out you're on the wrong wall, and and that it's depleting, and it feels like you're not supported. So I feel like what you want to do is fill your cup daily, whatever that means for you. I have a non-negotiable 45-minute spiritual practice, and I also have a non-negotiable workout time that I do for me. And
Yes.
and anybody in my family, from husband to kids to grandkids, whoever, it's like they all know this. It's like
Yep.
she's not gonna come do anything till she does this stuff.
Yes. And I think that that's really, really, really important, right? Because um sure, when you first started doing that, maybe people bothered you and said, we need you right now. But then over time, if you repeat, hey, this is what I do, I need this 45 minutes in order to then be happy for the rest of the day, then eventually people let you have what you need, right? Like I'm not saying you need to ask them for permission, but probably when you started to say, I'm going to take time out to take care of myself, you got a little pushback, right? But then eventually, if you're really dedicated, then it doesn't matter. People have to allow you what you need, right?
Exactly. And then you get to do the same for them.
Right.
What do you I was listening to someone the other day who was talking about, in their relationship they have this language. It's like, well, I'm at a 10 today, so I've got a lot of energy. And the other one says, well, I'm at a 2, I don't. So then the person with the 10 knows, oh, let me give 2 the space to do what they need to fill themselves back up.
Yes. Yes, and that's a simple way of touching base.
Hmm.
And I do recommend that for couples. It doesn't have to take that long. Like me and my husband, I notice like if I'm feeling disconnected, we're both really busy, right? So it's not like we have time to drop into a half-hour long conversation about how we're doing. But what I discovered is if I just say, hey, I'm feeling, here's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. And I'm also feeling hopeful about what I'm about to do. How are you feeling? And then he just rattles off 2 words. Now, he likes talking about his feelings. If most my experience is that most men don't necessarily like talking about their feelings. So
Right.
then I would create a different practice, like what are you excited about right now, etc. But just to feel that we have that emotional connection with each other, that we're on the same team. Um,
Yes.
and I think that if I didn't do my self-care that day, then I wouldn't know how to connect with him.
That's exactly right. You wouldn't be bringing your best self.
Yeah, so everyone, and that's what I would like to impart on our listeners is, what every day can you do to get you in touch with your deepest dreams, your deepest values, your deepest desires, your feelings?
Yeah.
What are your top emotional needs? How do you feel when you get them out? What are some things to do to make yourself feel better? Not that you need to answer all those questions every day, but I mean, I just notice if I do that, if I take time in the morning just to center myself with what is my dream for the day,
Mhm.
to use your language. I mean, usually I just say, what is my intention for the day, but it's, similar. How do I want to feel? What's most important? And I really center myself, then I have a lot more energy to give to others.
Yes. Yes. And and the world.
Exactly.
You have a lot more energy, and we're all going to be in, roller coasters of life. We all are. And so when you're in one of those valleys, the more you filled up your cup and supported yourself, the easier it is to navigate those things, to move out of them.
Right. Exactly. Um, I completely agree. And, I think everyone has their own unique makeup, and therefore some people resonate with meditating, some people resonate with journaling, other people need to move their bodies to
Right.
discover what it is that's important. But I think that that's the main message that I hear you imparting, is that in order to speak our truth and stand in our power, we need to take the time to connect with what's most important to us.
Exactly. Exactly. And it will have you rest easier. It will have you thrive in your work, and will have you be present in your relationships.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that you do have a free gift to share with our audience that might help them in this process of connecting with what do they want to do to dream bigger and speak up for their authenticity in a bigger way.
Yeah, it's called Ways to Play Bigger. And so you get a video every week for 5 weeks, really inviting you to be with you, love you, honor you, support you, and step into your greatness.
That's wonderful. Yes. And so I will put the link to that. It's called 5 Ways to Play Bigger, as you said.
Mhm.
Um, and I will put the link to that. Both if you're watching the YouTube video, it'll be in the description. And if you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes or another platform, then it should be in the show notes. And I'll have everything also on my website at coachvaleriegreen.com/Cynthia. So that should be easy to remember. And of course, I'll put that link in the show notes and in um, the social media posts that I make for this. So of course, if you are wanting more, then Cynthia has a lot of resources on her website, cynthiajames.com or .net, sorry,
.net.
cynthiajames.net. Yes, I went there this morning, and I saw that you have other free resources, lots of wonderful advice / inspiring messages, because we all need to be inspired.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm so grateful to have been invited here and to support, your community and the beautiful work you're doing.
Yes, and thank you so much. And may all of us have a self-love filled day where we are in touch with our deepest values so that we can speak up for our deepest truth.
Amen.